Hey everyone, it's Justine, and today I'm going to be showing off a brand new release from the Ton Stamps. It's their 3rd anniversary blog hop celebration today, and I'm so excited to show you the Peony bundle. So this first stamp here is a 6x8 stamp. It comes with sentiments, some brush sentiments, and then it comes with this solid background. And you'll notice that there are some floral white space there that you can add in some cards. So these 3 stamp sets can be combined or used individually in order to create some really pretty cards that just involve stamping. So they're very simple. So you can see here that you have the background, and the flowers here fit perfectly inside the background for easy to line up layering stamps. Then you have your second layer of the flowers, and then a third 6x8 stamp set to complete the flower combination. And each one of these sentiments comes with those brush sentiments and some small sentiments to go with it, so you can create a variety of cards. It also comes with the floral leaves, 2 different sets, so you can stamp in 2 different colors and shades of green in order to fill in the rest of the white space. I'm going to be showing you how to use it, but I did want to mention that this bundle is actually free for you with a minimum qualifying purchase, and you can check out all the details on the Tons blog in order to be informed about that. I'll link to all of that below in the video description. So I'm going to be stamping this background here in black ink. Now, I didn't season this stamp, which means simply I didn't use it on a scrap sheet of paper beforehand, so it did take me a couple of tries to get the solid background. I'm using my MISTI stamping tool, so that is not a problem because I can stamp in the exact same place each time. I'm now going to go ahead and layer in the flower, and you'll see how easy it is to line up because it fits perfectly in the background, which is why you want to stamp the background first. I'm stamping onto a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 Neenah Solar White cardstock in 80 pounds. So this first layer here, I'm actually stamping in some light colored pink ink from the Ton. I will link to all the inks that I used for this card and the rest of my cards at the end of the video. You want to use your lightest color of ink first, and then you're going to move on to your medium shade of pink. It really doesn't matter what brand you use or if you mix and match brands, as long as they kind of coordinate together, you'll be fine. So I'm going to put in the second layer here, which just adds additional details and dimension to the flowers. So I'm just going to close the MISTI stamping tool once it's in place, pick up the stamp, and then ink that up using the medium ink. You can see that I speed up during the ink process for time's sake purposes, so that you're not sitting here forever. And I always ink twice. I really just like to have that extra solid protection. I accidentally forgot to stamp the 3rd layer of the flower until the very end, so I moved on to the leaves right away, which is also fine. As long as you have the first layer of that flower there, you can even move on to the leaves. So I'm going to be stamping in a lighter shade of green ink, and I wanted to keep this kind of whimsical looking, so I decided to use sort of a non-natural color of a leaf, so very, very green, almost like a lime green. And I went ahead and I stamped the first layer in there, and then I cleaned it off, and then went on to the second layer, which fills in the additional leaves and branches here, and I'm using a darker color ink. So I'm just lining everything up. You can see all you have to do is actually line up the stamps into the white spaces. It's super easy, unlike a lot of layering stamps I've used in the past. And that's what I love so much about the Tons inks, is that they're super easy to line up the layers. So I'm going ahead now and just stamping that last and final layer in there. And then I'm going to move on to the last layer of the flower because I had forgotten to do that. So you can see that this creates an entire card. So you can get these 3 stamp sets here and they'll create the entire card for you. Or of course, you could just simply get 2 layers of the flowers, or and that would work just fine as well if you just wanted a nice flower border. It's completely up to you. So I'm stamping in the darkest color pink now for the final touch. So now that it's all finished, I went ahead and off screen, I heat dried my black ink, or my panel, using a heat tool. And I went ahead with a diagonal stitch die from My Favorite Things. This is a My Favorite Things square die, and I went ahead and I cut the frame. Now I wanted to make square cards here. I wanted to show you 2 different looks. So I cut a square panel and attached it to a regular A2 card base, and then I also created a square panel and created square cards in the final examples. So I went ahead here, and this is where I wanted to show you my mistake. I like to show my mistakes so that you learn from them. Because I used VersaFine, it contains pigment and it actually takes a long time to dry. So you want to test your cardstock first to see if it's dry. I went ahead with an embossing bag here, and I added some embossing powder on top to see if it was dry. I had a little bit of debris here, so I thought it would be okay because I could scrape anything off with a dry paintbrush. It wasn't the case. So when I went ahead and stamped it, I ended up getting a hot mess, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. So let's go to the stamping first. So I went ahead thinking this was all going to be fine. I added the embossing bag to my card, stamped the Have a Lovely Birthday in some Versamark ink, and I closed the MISTI stamping door, stamped it all up, and it was all nice. And then I went ahead and added the white embossing powder to it. Now, the issue here is that the white embossing powder didn't just stick to the words like it normally would, it also stuck to the background. It didn't stick to the flowers because the flowers I used were regular ink and those dried no problem. So you can see I ended up with this hot mess with all of this ink all over the place. So I even did a little freeze frame for you here so you could see all of that white powder. Now, you would think that I just ruined my card, but that's not the case because I'm using the MISTI stamping tool. So I went ahead and I dried off all my background again using my heat tool. I stamped it in the MISTI again because the MISTI was in the same spot as before. So I stamped right over top of the Versamark ink as before and added the ink, and it turned out just fine. If I didn't use the MISTI and I tried to restamp it, it would still stick to the original Versamark ink that I had stamped down even after I dried it. So I went ahead and added my card base here, and you can see how this looks having the lots of white space at the bottom of the card. It's completely up to you how you end up doing it. So here's a final look at the A2 card, and I'm going to show you 10 different examples that I created using all sorts of different cards and designs. So here, for example, I used gold embossing powder on the leaves and the sentiment. I used some white embossing powder on a blue background. And I also used some cards with silver embossing powder, so for this one on a black background with purple flowers this time instead. I used the color wheel to help me pick my color choices. So I used, for example, purple as a background and noticed that yellow is its complementary color, so I stamped the flowers in yellow. Orange and blue also are a really nice color combination. And I really love the way these all turned out, and I got a variety of thank you, birthday, and just because cards. I think it looks really, really neat, and all these 3 stamp sets are so amazing. They create stunning cards with just simple stamping that anyone can do. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this card making tutorial and you enjoyed all the samples that I created. Please consider subscribing to my channel and checking out the blog hop, as there are many prizes being given away and lots of really pretty stamp sets to check out along the way. Thanks for watching. Bye!